Okay,
Yeah.
so let me go through this then quickly. I suppose the decision-making unit, decision-making process. So I was doing this actually with the teams I mentioned from SAP there a few weeks ago, but I was trying to get them to think about what was the sales process and how much was it costing to get a customer. But before all of that, you need to think about within the person you're selling to, who makes the decisions and what's the process involved there. So, the decision-making process is a little bit related to the life cycle of your product, because I suppose at various points in the life cycle, you could align some of those to the decision-making process in terms of how long it takes to get from contacting the person you're selling to them actually installing and paying you for the product. So there's definitely an alignment there. But I think one of the issues is people often assume that they are selling to one type of person when it's not that person in the end of the day who makes the decision in the first place. And you've made an assumption earlier on about your persona and who's the customer who's writing the check. And maybe that's the exact same person that you will settle on after looking at the decision-making unit. But it's worth doing this anyway, just to make sure that that is the right person. I've sometimes you kind of see you meet companies and they say that the CEO makes the company, and you kind of drill down into it a little bit, and after a while they realize that actually it's not the CEO that makes the decision. They're always trying to get to the CEO, but in the end of the day, it's maybe the facilities manager or the IT manager or somebody else who actually has the budget who makes it happen. They might have to go to CEO for final approval, or they might just like to bounce the stuff off them. But again, there's an assumption that this person is the persona of the customer when actually it's not. So you just want to, I suppose, have an understanding of who are all the different groupings within the company that have an effect on the decision in the end of the day. So we've different types of entities. We've got the economic buyer, who is the person who signs off. We've got champions. We've got influencers. We've got people who've got veto power who can basically say, no, you can't do this because it doesn't adhere to policies or international standards or whatever. We've got the end user compliance. There's a whole bunch of people who can be involved in the decision-making structure. So again, it's worth trying to map this out, thinking about for the particular customer, the different entities. For example, the end user. So I often give an example. If you're in a college building like I am at the moment, I've got a lighting system in the room here, and I'm the end user of that lighting system, but I am not the person who makes the decision on putting that lighting system in place. There is an economic buyer, the buildings management people in the university, who decide what lights go in here. However, there are also other influences. You've got champions who are saying you need to go for green energy lighting, you need to change to LED lighting because it's more efficient. You've got influencers, you have standards. And if you look at the previous picture and talk about all the people that would be involved in installing a lighting system in a university building, there will be quite a few. But the end user isn't the economic buyer. So for each of these different types of entities in the decision-making unit, do you have an understanding of them? What are their priorities? Why would they be telling other people that they should buy this? It may be difficult to fill this out for a lot of different entities involved, but at least you can have an idea of what's influencing them, what's a day in their life, where do they get their information from, what's their fears and dreams and so on. So try and fill out this as much as possible. So here's an example this is again back related to our green energy system for a data center. You have all these different players, and you can see down here in the bottom right, you've got color coding showing you basically the types of influence that they have in the decision-making process. So you've got the money, person who holds the money. You've got the vetoes. You've got the customer. That's the person you're targeting. You've got the influencer, then somebody who's external or internal who's having influence on the decision. And then within that, you can say a little bit about each of those people and the role that they have. So you can see the vetoes there. This particular example, you've got quite a large number of vetoes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vetoes. And again, unless you actually mapped out the process and talked to the customer in terms of what are their challenges, if they went to deploy this green energy cooling system, what would actually happen? Who do they have to talk to? Who do they have to consult? What's their budget limit? You want to understand what range they can actually sign off on before they have to go to somebody else. If it's below $50,000, dollars, can they do it themselves? If it's above that, do they have to go to somebody else? So again, it's a more holistic view of everything involved in the decision of buying your product in the first place, never mind the eventual installation, if that's part of it as well. So we've seen the decision-making unit. There's, I suppose, different considerations depending on the industry. If you imagine if it's a medical device, all of the different considerations there around the medical industry and standards, and might be a lot more than maybe a consumer mobile app. So again, depending on the area, you probably have varying levels of decision-making units involved. If you're selling directly to a customer and they have a mobile phone and they are buying an app on their phone, you've got one decision-making unit. They're the person who says, yes, I'm going to buy this or not. Whereas if you're deploying something, as I say, in the energy requirements for a large corporate or some enterprise software, you've a whole bunch of other people who are involved in the decision-making process.